Okay, right. Thank you very much, everyone. Welcome to week 5. We're nearly there. One more to go next week. So, usual setup with this, we're going to talk about a particular topic, and then you're going to undertake a bit of a group exercise. And this week, we're talking about basic rules of the road. So, as I was just chatting with you just now, I asked you to do some homework, just thinking about the rules of the road when it comes to driving. So, things that stand out to me were about driving on a particular side of the road, communication, understanding what the other person's going to be doing, having rules around that. Less obviously, signage was something that it features quite commonly on our roads, and there is, I suppose, in a way, there is a lot of signage in relation to navigation and maps and things like that for doing sailing, and there are signage that you might see around certain areas like ports and jetties and waterways. It's not something you'll come across too much when you're sailing at Eden, but just having a full understanding of stop go, when it's good to go, when it's good to stop, etc., is a useful thing. So let's look at some of the kind of basic rules. So on the side here, I've got the 6 kind of core rules really in relation to sailing, the basic rules. So the first one, the power boats give way to sailboats. And this applies if you're in a yacht. Not many of you will actually go on yachts. Certainly not often on Eden, I know that, but you may find yourself in a yacht, and if you are under power, then you are then classed as a power boat. Even though you might have your sail up, you're not actually as a power boat. I've got a question here just about speaking a bit louder. I think I'm on the right mic, so all being well, just let me know if audio is an issue. I'll try my best. So in this situation here, we've got a powerboat, which is encountering a sailboat. So a powerboat has to move out of the way of the sailboat. And so the sailing boat has right of way. Now, it's one of those things where you can't be arrogant really about that particular rule, because if you're in a sailing dinghy, a small sailing dinghy, and you're encountering a super tanker in a narrow channel in Portsmouth, something like that, even though power gives way to sail, it's going to be largely impossible for that sailing boat, that super tanker, to move out of your way in time. So the best bet is to avoid getting in that situation in the first place. There was an incident a couple of years ago where someone felt they needed to press the point and sailed right in the nose of a super tanker or a very large cargo container, and they got hit by the boat and sunk. And that, it just didn't stand up in court. So don't be kind of naive about that particular rule. Be careful with that one, particularly if you're crossing the channel. So the next rule is if boats are under sail, and then the boat on port tack gives way to the boat on starboard tack. So remember, when we talk about port and starboard, that's in relation to the wind coming over the side of the boat. So the wind on this one is coming over the port side, the wind on this one is coming over the starboard side. So this boat here is on starboard tack. So that means that the boat on port tack must give way to the starboard tack. So that must find a way of moving out of the way of that boat. So this one can claim right of way and proceed on, and this one has to move out of the way. I think the golden rule really with sailing is use the rules as much as you can, but also, and I think one of you mentioned about the idea of looking around you, keeping awareness at all, mirror, signal, maneuver, all those kind of things. It's important to avoid collisions in the first place, because although bumping into another boat might be a little bit fun, you might cause a lot of damage. Particularly toppers do have an amazing ability to destroy the sides of GRP boats, so the glass fiber boats. So just be very wary of that one. Okay, the next one to look at is if boats are on the same tack, then the windward boat gives way to the downward boat. So the wind's blowing down here. We've got 2 boats sailing away. They're on the same tack, so the wind's coming over the starboard side of both of these boats. So they're both on starboard tack. So that means that the windward boat gives way to the downwind boat. So this one would have to find an alternative way. Turn up, turn away, tack, come down this way. It would have to move out of the way of the downwind boat. Okay. Then we're looking at when 2 boats under power so in this situation, we've got 2 power boats that are approaching each other. Obviously, they're going to clash unless some action is taken. So both boats must turn to starboard to avoid this. So that one would turn that way, and that one would that way. Remember, port's on this side and starboard is on this side, and then they can go around each other safely. So just quickly on this one, we've got two boats. We've got a windward boat and we've got a downwind boat. And one is on starboard tack and this one is on port tack. So that's port side, that's starboard side. The wind is going over that one. So what actually happens is you don't apply the windward boat rule here. It actually is this rule here applies. So port tack gives way to starboard. So even though one's upwind and one's downwind, the port boat would still have to give way to the starboard boat. So it'd have to find another way around there. Okay. So that's just some basic rules there. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a go at this little worksheet. So I'm just going to copy this code and put this into the chat. So hopefully you should all have sight of this. My computer's, there we go. Come on. So that's the worksheet. If you want to all just launch up that and have a go, and I'll share the actual task with you. And basically, it's to look at different boat scenarios and see which one would have right of way. So I'll come and meet you in the main room now, and we can work through that as a group. Okay. Pause the recording and have a go at this yourself. So here's the diagram. See if you can answer these questions. So we're looking for courses of action for 1 and 2, and with number 3 and 4, if you can identify which boat should keep out of the way and which boat should has priority, that would be good. Thank you. Okay, so let's have a look at first at Dane and Rowan's there. Okay, so with number 1, interesting you were saying about changing tack on that. So that's on starboard tack at the moment, and this one's on port tack. You were saying about switching the sail across. So you actually, this one here actually has right of way. Now it's a difficult situation because it's going to have to avoid this boat and I have to go around it. You could do a jibe and to avoid it. And we were saying about at all costs really avoid crashing into the other boat. This boat here shouldn't really have got itself into this position here. Now it could turn away and just try and avoid the crash as much as possible, but it's going to have to take some evasive. So this one, the one on the right hand side for illustration number 1, doesn't really have right of way, but both boats are going to have to avoid crashing. Now, if that's a race, then the boat on the left can protest the boat on the right. Number 2, you were saying interestingly here about the changing tack on this one. So at the moment, this boat on the left for number 2 is on port tack, so it doesn't have right of way. Sorry, is the windward boat when compared with the other boat, which is on port tack as well. So by jibing there, what it actually would be doing is putting itself on a starboard tack, so the whole windward boat keeps clear of the downwind boat. Rule would be removed, and the boat on the left, if it was then onto starboard, would actually have full right of way over the other boat. So it's an interesting approach to take on it. Let's have a look at the one that we've got in here. So let's have a look at Rosie here, answering on the 3 and 4. So for 3 and 4, so let's look at 3 first. A boat, if you're watching the video on this one, actually snakily moves in front of boat B. C really is out of the way. It's not really within range. You can see that the C is pointing at the back of the boat. You can see the back of the boat for A. A is quite clearly passed in front of C, so that's fine. But B and A look as though they might be on a bit of a collision course. So what actually could happen there is A could do a tack, so push the tiller away from it and put herself onto starboard tack in front of B. That would be okay. As this is a race, what they want to try and do as much as possible is avoid 2 boats clashing, particularly as that wouldn't work in A's favour at all in terms of protest, and they'd have to do turns. Just looking at number 4 then. So the boat D is on starboard tack because the person sat on the right-hand side of the boat. And the other boat is on port tack because the person, although they're not quite sat down, the wind is coming over the port side of that boat. So E would have to avoid a collision with D, or D would have to do a turn and could, in theory, force a protest on there as well. So very good on those. It's kind of quite hard to actually judge this. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at some videos, and I want you to give me an idea as to what you think might happen. Now, the reason I'm going to show these is we have some communications I'm just going to paste into the chat. So we talk in amongst our boats, talk to our crew about tacking and jibing, and what we do is we shout particular items. So I'm going to put it into chat as to what you would say. So if you're tacking, the helm says ready about, and the crew replies ready, and that's where you know that they're listening and they're on board and that everything's going to happen correctly. If they're jibing, the helm shouts stand by to jibe, and the crew replies and then shouts jibe ho. So that means that they actually make the turn. So I'm going to play some videos for you. I'm going to pause them, and I want you to tell me what you think someone should be shouting. Obviously, these are single-handers, but I'm going to play the video, and I want you to, in the chat, just when I pause it, suggest what they should be shouting. So we're looking at boat 108 as it comes along here. So it's about to perform a maneuver. Okay, so is that boat going to tack or jibe, do you think? And what do you think the crew would be saying, the helm would be saying to the crew? So in chat, see if you can give me an idea. Is it ready about, or is it stand by to jibe, do you think? Any thoughts? No? I can show the clip again. I can rewind it. There we go. So the boat is approaching buoy 8. And what might they shout to the crew if they had one? Pause it there. Ready about, coming from Josh. Okay, I think that actually would be the answer, yep. So he's doing attacks, taking the nose of the boat through the wind. That's it, well done, Rosie. Ready about. So they're tacking there. And what would the crew reply if they said ready about? Type it away. What would you shout back if your helm said to you, ready about? Ready. Well done, ready, ready, ready. Yep. Okay, let's have a look at another clip. So let's finish that one. Interesting sailing maneuver there for that guy lying down. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. What do you think they're going to shout? What do you think the helm would shout now to their crew? Okay, so Josh says stand by to jibe. Yep, I think that's actually correct. So let's play that out. So he's pushing the tiller to where he was sat and straight up. So that is definitely a jibe. Yeah. So jibe ho. Okay, another quick clip here. Lovely sunny day at Eden. Nice breeze there. What are they going to shout now? What would the helm shout to the crew? Are they going to tackle the jibe, do you think? Ready about from Maggie? Yeah, that's the one. So they're doing attack. They're taking the nose of the boat through the wind, and the crew would reply back, ready. Okay, one last clip for you. It's just Trish. She's not on this with us tonight. Ready about or stand by to jibe? What do you think? Just note where she was pushing the tiller there. Ready about? Ready about? Yeah. Okay, so yep, ready about. pushing the tiller. That's an aft main boat, that one, so she's facing backwards as she does the hand swap rather than centre main, where you're looking forward as you move across. Okay, we're going to very quickly now just finish talking very briefly about capsize. So put in chat, say if you've capsized the boat or not. Just say yes if you've capsized the boat or not. Yeah, Maggie's capsized. Very good. Rosie's capsized. So hopefully you've found your way out of the situation. So we're just going to play a couple of videos here. One of a single-hander recovering from a capsize, and the other of a double-hander. So let's load that up and play this up. So this is the single-hander. So if you watch the sailor moves down the back of the boat, right at the end of that,
makes his way to
centreboard,
puts pressure down, lifts the boat. Boat comes
there we
up.
go.
Boat moves head to wind.
Have to pull themselves up
jumps
now.
In.
Get them back in that boat. Okay, so
Sort out
that's
controls.
That's how you would recover a capsized boat. Now, obviously, one thing to note there is that you've got to do a lot of the legwork yourself in pulling yourself back on board. With some boats, the high-sided boats, you might need to move to the back of the boat to try and get yourself on board. It's important to try and make sure that your boat comes around head to wind. Naturally, they do that. Sometimes there might be something that might be stopping it, but it's best to be head to wind when you're getting back on board the boat, because head to wind is when the boat's stopped. If you try to right a boat that comes up that's facing downwind and the boom's out, it's all it's going to do is catch the wind and head off, possibly without you. Okay, let's have a quick look at a capsize recovery for a double-hander. This is using what we call the scoop technique. I'm going to turn the audio down this one. So, two people, one person is swimming around the back of the boat to the centreboard, or the daggerboard in this case, keeping contact with the boat at all times. The other person is kind of waiting in the cockpit area. Now, my advice here, you've seen that on the previous one, was the best thing is to get as far out on that centreboard as possible to pivot the boat up as much as possible. If you can, hoik yourself up and then shift your weight a little bit towards that far tip. What's going to happen is, as that boat comes up, the other person is going to use the opportunity to basically be scooped inside that boat.
So really get your weight on. You want to be on the
obviously
tip
helps
of that
if you're a slightly heavier person.
When you get your body weight
also
up. So
note, just make sure your pointiers are nice and tight,
That's it.
just so they don't ride up around your neck as much.
Go for it.
Putting the weight on. I think I gave a little bit of help.
Closer to the edge you are, the better.
Get that weight. Pressure.
Perfect.
There it comes. Up it comes.
Okay, so
now try to avoid, if you're the crew member inside, try to avoid holding the boat down, but use the opportunity to pull yourself up and then going to help that other person out the water. I think it might be a brother and sister using the dunk method here, but just bouncing that person on board, and again,
go on, help her.
Okay, right. That's it for this session. Thank you very much. I hope you found that useful. Next week, we're going to try and do some kind of looking at a bit of racing. We're going to try a bit of virtual racing next week, all being well. I want you to have a look though before next week. Your homework for next week is sailing first. So I want you to have a look, see if you can find some sailing first for sailing, whether it's around the world, across the Atlantic. Just give me a couple of lists of examples of sailing first, because it's all part of thinking about where you want to go next in your sailing time. So thank you very much. I hope you found it useful, and see you all next week.